Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Mike,
I'm Duran.
and this is Before We Forget. So, Duran,
Yo,
before we forget,
what's up?
do you believe that your trauma defines who you are?
No,
No.
no, I don't. If my trauma defined who I was, I would not be the person I am today. I wouldn't be somebody that people would get along with or like. I would not be sociable, and I would not be someone that you would recommend being close to.
I ask this, right? Because I see a lot of people, and I guess this is going to not necessarily to shame anybody, but they use these hashtags and it almost feels like they're defined by the hashtags rather than who they actually are. Like hashtag cancer survivor or domestic abuse survivor or so forth. And
Okay,
and
let me
so
let me say something
yeah,
because we need to have some more back and forth in between the camaraderie here. Um, it's gonna sound bad, but I could care less how anybody feels. When you have these situations and people survive stuff like that or things happen to them, I 100% support all the people who've been in those situations because no one is going to tell you to forget cancer.
right,
No one's going to No one's going to tell you to forget being domestically abused,
right.
having a near death experience. That's where PTSD comes from, a traumatic experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I will say I'm 100%, 1,000%. That's my new saying. 1,000% in the belief that we all can move past something, but sometimes we don't actually want to move past it.
Yeah,
And I say that because if 10 years pass by, that's a lot of days, a lot of hours, a lot of minutes, and a lot of seconds for you to put forth an effort to escape something that you're not experiencing anymore. So if you survive cancer, you're not experiencing it anymore. So now we're on the side of I can enjoy life, I can share my story and be a gift, or the new saying to the new generation is I want to be a light to the next person. How
right.
can you do that and then go home and still struggle, or then say, "Oh, I'm just having such a hard time." You cannot help me if you are first not helping yourself or have fully overcame something.
Right.
And when you're in hurt, it's easy for you to feel like you diagnosing somebody else, but you cannot effectively help me the way I need help when you're still hurting from something. I didn't say that you can't help and that you won't deliver some of the greatest advice, but at the end of the day, you're not healed, so I will not be healed because you're not healed from it. So you can't really effectively give me something that's gonna move me past this slump. Will you say something that's gonna make me feel good? Yes.
Mm.
Will you say something that's gonna make me believe and have hope? Yes. But at the end of the day, I will not be moving past what I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z because you have not done it. Because how can I get free and you still stuck?
See, and so my belief is that physically a lot of and don't get me wrong, I have cancer survivors in my family. I have domestic abuse survivors in my family. And I think physically they get past it, but here they don't necessarily get past it, right? And I think a lot of it comes down to therapy because a lot of people get out of the situation, but they never mentally get out of that situation. And so little triggers happen that kind of brings them back and they never truly can get away from it, right? And I think having a good therapist and going through that and being able to talk and work through it allows you to become a cancer survivor or a domestic abuse survivor or any type of survivor, right? But not be let it define who you are. And I say that meaning that in a lot of times I see people who are stuck in that life. Like there are so many things that bring them back to that trauma because they've never worked through it. And so it truly does define who they are. Because if and don't get me wrong, I mean, I have traumas that something will happen and it'll immediately kind of revert me back to who I was 10, 15 years ago. But I have to pull myself out of that and realize that I'm not that same person. And I think in a lot of situations, they don't realize that they're not in the same situation that they were when they had these traumas.
Unpopular opinion. I feel like they do. Humans were much more capable than we give ourselves credit for. And I'm entering a phase of where, like, I already speak how I feel, but now taking all the extra filters off of it is saying, no, what you did affected me, and I need time to process it because it made me look at you different. And I don't want to look at you the same way I look at you. So I need to do something for me. It don't necessarily mean that's for you. It's for me. So regardless of if you think you did something or not, this is for me. The problem is that, again, no one's taking the time to fix themselves. And then to say that trauma is defining somebody, therefore you didn't move past it if it's defining you, and that's what made your character. Your character is in your survivorship or your overcoming. That's who you are. So if you are experiencing a trauma, then you're letting the trauma define you, but you aren't past it. But you're trying to dance around it. So it's in the center of the circle. You're just going around in the circle. You're going through the motions. You're not really saying, hey, I'm trying to get over this. I need to get it off of me. XYZ. You might bring people into it. So now you're bringing people into the trauma because, misery likes company.
Yeah.
That's a misery thing. So, in a sense, trauma does define you, but it don't, because that's not your characteristic. That's just a moment in time where you got stuck and you need to get out. For some people, that is therapy. But for most of the time, I believe that it's us. No one wants to admit they're in the way of themselves doing something. I've seen it time and time again where someone is in their own way and they won't move out the way. I don't know if it's the fear of moving ahead or not knowing, the fear of being taken advantage of, or what it is. But regardless, it's something that people need to address. And I don't care how people dress it up. You can say, well, it was this long and this happened and this and that. You just giving me a transcript of misery, but nowhere in this transcript have I heard you say nothing positive. I didn't hear you say, I can overcome this. I can beat this. I want to beat this. I want to do this. I want to be this. I don't want to be this person. I just hear, well, back in 2012, this happened and my great nana was so close and my pop and he did. And then his car flew off the bridge. And then I lost 4 of my toes in the accident. And I don't know in life, but you still here.
Damn,
So you got a
Pop.
chance to change it and to do something. And then most people would be like, well, that's not fair because you can't say how somebody should heal or do
Right.
something. I can't. But what I can tell you is from experience, and again, that comes with I would say a level of maturity, is you have to understand everybody goes through something. So if I come in the room and I get to telling you this transcript I just told you about, then it becomes the pity party. Now you start talking about what you had. Well, I had triple bypass heart surgery, and I had to get this, and now I'm scheduled for another surgery, and they said they found something on my brain, and now I'm just terrified. Like, who wants to do that? So are we really trying to get away from these things, or are we letting it define us?
So let's turn the page a little bit, right? Because coming from where we come from, we dealt with a lot of trauma, right? I mean, even by middle school, we were losing friends we grew up with, right? To shootings, to car accidents, to anything. I lost my one of my best friends. I called him my little brother when I was in the 8th grade. Right, I had to sit through. They announced it. You were there. They announced it at 7:30 in the morning that he passed away. And so for the next 7, 8 hours at school, I had to sit there and pretend like I I I I was okay, right? And this was a major trauma because at that time I had recently moved. I had felt like I was supposed to meet up with him that day that everything happened, but I had called and canceled because I didn't feel like walking 20 minutes. And then to find out all that happened, like, so that was a major trauma for me. That was really the first major trauma for me, and I feel like it did define who I am, right? Because ever since that happened, I felt like I've had to carry the weight of the world on my shoulder and be there for everybody, because if I'm not there, what could happen? Right. And it wasn't until I went to therapy where I really realized, like, this is why I am who I am and why I stand up and fight and do so much for everybody. Because at one point I missed one time, and it defines so much of who I am the rest of my life.
Okay, so for that, I have some rebuttal.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, I do remember that as a very tragic time,
Hmm.
and we didn't have 100% of the friend circle that we had, or the kinship that we had with the other friends that we got, other people.
Right.
So I'm gonna just speak on the context of me and you. I felt that. I lived that with you. You never knew that because I didn't tell you that.
No.
But you was never by yourself. I literally had dreams about that. When you told me about it, that's when I discovered that I could pick up the feelings from somebody else, because he personally wasn't my friend. I did
Hmm.
not know him. Was I sad about the situation? Yes. But where it hit me is because I felt how you felt. Now, I just want to put this in the context. Nobody can feel how anybody else feels exactly, because we all different people. We all experience stuff different ways.
Right.
But in some cases, uh I've come to understand that I can feel that pain. So I say that because my heart hurt it. I had dreams about it, and I didn't know. I didn't know how it happened. I just heard descriptions when you briefly said something, when the school said something, and so I had dreams about that for a long time. And I kept seeing his face, and I kept seeing it happen over and over, and I would see it. I just never told you that. So I felt that with you. I was sad, and I had to find a way to do something. So my way was to try to make sure you was okay in
Hmm.
that sense, and try to be there and be around. And as you know, we started going up this way, and then the rest is history. But also with that, I can see how that defines some of your traits and some of the things that you do,
Yeah.
but that also spiraled you in two different directions. One was, I want to be here because I don't want to miss out, and then something happens to somebody that I love and care about. And the other one was an overwhelming sense of, I have to fix this and do
Accountability.
this
Yeah.
so other people don't drown. And this is the part that you shouldn't have did or took on, because now you have to live with that. So now we fast forward to now, where you're not responsible for uh every single person. You're responsible, or responsibility is to your wife and your kids and to those loved ones, but everybody is in a realm where they can make a decision for themselves,
See.
because they didn't look back and try to help you. Because if you had told somebody else's story, which I'm pretty sure um family somebody might watch, they would never know that, because you never said that, and they never took the time to assess that
I don't
situation.
I don't think I've ever told anybody the full story of the extent of how I felt with that. Um, but I will say this, like, even during like COVID, when I felt like I needed to step back and take care of my family, I told you about my other friend who ended up going through it, and I tried to be there for that person. And eventually it ended up in them committing suicide.
Right.
And it felt like, man, all that person was asking me to do is to come sit with them at their house.
Right.
And I let COVID be the reason to stop me. So it just kind of brought back all of that and continued to define who I am, because it's like, I will never let that happen again. Even
Right.
though I know mentally, like, it's not on me to prevent that.
Yeah.
But a
But
part of me is like, I need to do everything I can to prevent that.
right, but then that's the two things that counterbalance themselves, and this is for everybody. It's not just us going back and forth. You can't put that expectation on yourself for something that's going to happen because you don't have foresight.
Mm.
So you can't see what's going to happen. So I understand the need to help the people and be there, but that's important. This is why I say we need to tell people these things and do this for them and give them let's get out the misery transcript and get into the I can do this. You know what? Things is bad, but I'll be okay. Because now you got this overwhelming sense,
Yeah.
which we'll have to talk about on another part. But y'all let us know, does your trauma define who you are, and has something traumatic happened to you? Do you feel like you gotten over it, or do you feel like it's something that's holding you in bondage? Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch y'all on the next video.
Peace.